This morning we got an overview about the success stories, about the monuments of Artemis, and we did not have the time to discuss in detail. And I would like now to invite Irene to the stage to moderate a panel of those who presented, and we could use this time to really discuss the different topics, but also perhaps mention those parts that may be forgotten or that should be mentioned in that context. So Irene, please take over.
Thank you, Heinrich. Yes, we're going to have a debate session. In the next hour, we're going to be brief and punchy, and we're going to discuss the metrics report, and we're going to invite the people that are deeply involved in this area. So please come to the stage. The 5 people that are going to present and participate in the debate session publicly: Joseph Affenzeller, Jürgen Nierhaus, Jerker Delsi, sorry about the pronunciation, and Alan Foster. We're going to start with the presentation of the metrics report that has been led by the working group metrics that is led by Patrick Pitt. And please, Patrick, come and start with the presentation of the results of the report.
Okay, thank you, Irene, for the introduction. So this morning I was driving to Brussels in my car, and I was listening to a song by David Bowie, and it was the song "We Can Be Heroes Just for One Day." To be honest, the Artemis community, all of you, I can honestly say we have been heroes for 7 years already, because we have reached a lot of results, and I hope that we can stay heroes for the next 7 years. And the fact that we're heroes is proven by the, in fact, metrics report, which was based on a questionnaire which was sent around in the August-September time frame. 50 questions were sent around, and we have a lot of results. I will not give all of them here today. You will receive a booklet containing all these results, so you can easily read it once you are back at your place. So here is the booklet. So we have gathered a lot of data. It was almost a mission impossible to find the conclusions out of it, but thanks to the hard work of the working group, we have had some results. And in fact, in total it was sent to 800, more than 800 people, and there were 21% of the participants, or of the people to whom it has been sent, who have responded initially, who have started the questionnaire. There has 15% which has ended the questionnaire. So for each question we have between 125 and 160 respondents to the questionnaire. So that proves already that the questionnaire was a bit too long, so next time we have to probably make it shorter again. It was also a good reflection of our community, because it was almost 1/3 of large companies, 1/3 of small and medium-sized enterprises, and 1/3 of research institutes who have answered the questions. 86% were regular partners of the project, and 40% were leaders of an Artemis consortium. What are the overall conclusions? Very short. The analysis of the results have shown that Artemis is really gaining momentum. There have been successful networks. Also this morning we heard already about the initiatives like ICOs, etc. They are established, they are fully operational. The industry-driven approach was appreciated by most of the respondents. That was one of the key motivators to participate in Artemis. But also the combination of working together between the scientific world, research institutes, universities and industry was considered a key strength. Some other key strengths: new partnerships, the involvement of SMEs. You will see it later in the figures. There were a lot of new partnerships being built. Half of them contained SMEs, and almost 80% wants to continue the cooperation with SMEs after the project is finished. There was growth and awareness of centers of innovation excellence. The main business impact on participating in Artemis projects was reduced development costs reduced time to market and higher usability. We also see that the Artemis annual working plan targets have become living instruments. Societal challenges have been addressed properly, and we see that there is a lot more attention to building real prototypes, even to work towards public trials and field tests. However, there is also some attention items, that's always the case. The main attention item is the uncertainty about the availability of funding in specific countries and for all the partners in the consortium and the administrative burden. And the second is the contribution to standards, which has absolutely increased but relatively decreased compared to the questionnaire that we have launched in 2010. So you see, there are a lot of good results. I think, although we have already realized a lot of work, still a lot of effort needs to be done. And I think it's a good time here to reflect on a number of topics, 3 topics, where we want to have an open and transparent discussion with the panel and with you, and therefore I give the floor again to Irene for introducing the first discussion item.
Thank you, Patrick. I want to say that actually this booklet, that I think there are 150 copies somewhere around here. Yeah, we have some copies of the metrics report. This is the second one that has been published. I invite you to have a look at it because you might think, oh, metrics, how boring, but actually the successes in numbers of the Artemis program are in this booklet for the second time in a few years. The discussion today is going to be focused on 3 main points. This discussion item 1 is the Centers of Innovation and Excellence. And the thing is that I'm going to ask questions to these guys, and I want to ask questions to you, and hopefully we will have an interactive conversation. Yeah, so please feel free to just say, I want to say something, I want some clarification. The concepts of the Centers of Innovation and Excellence are, the community is much more aware in this year than they were 2 years ago when we did the first round of questions. And it is considered an active instrument for success. The numbers speak for themselves, as Patrick has mentioned, and actually it's reflected in the booklet. And the questions that I want to ask the speakers and also to you as well is, in your experience, what is the impact of the Centers of Innovation and Excellence on the Artemis program and the SRA? Who wants to start?
Yes, I want to start. I think the impact of the Centers of Innovation and Excellence on the Artemis program and the SRA is probably in 2 points. So, since Artemis is essentially a roadmap-based program, I think it's very important these activities that we do in the center. So, identifying those research topics that should be part of this roadmap. And also, as we do, for example, in our priority list, keeping track about what is actually handled in which project and how far has this roadmap for our domain been implemented already. And so that at every stage we have a very clear picture of what are the next steps in implementing this roadmap. And this is something that can be done very effectively in a Center of Innovation Excellence, which is focused on a specific topic. And this is the 1 point. And the second point, which is almost as important, is that we can support the transporter of results from one project to another, so that we really get these change of projects which build upon each other and which build upon the results of the previous project, which seeing that Artemis projects are already big and have a high impact, and if you then manage to have this change, you would even multiply this.
I think the Center of Innovation Excellence is a unique selling point also for Artemis here, because in other activities and other programs that is not existing. And in this direction, I think it was mentioned small and medium enterprises. The involvement of small and medium enterprises is very important, and from this standpoint also via this line and activities we can fulfill this requirement. On the other side, it was mentioned also, as example from CES, we transferred the RTP, the incorporated RTP, to the Center of Excellence, because to have this continuation of results, not to stop for a project, to take the results and transfer to others, and to improve this way. The Center of Excellence is one model, and I think this is a very important one. Third point is also that we have, with this Center for Innovation Excellence, a good link and networking here in Europe, and we can put together not only consortium for projects, also in the direction of other links, which is creating business. And I think this business is an important factor also, which can be easier realized in this direction.
Yeah, can you give some examples of that? That's the second question. You know, how these instruments will contribute to the European business.
About business, I know this is we are here research and business is on a higher level, but I would say this link and information flow via these centers of excellence and creating idea for the future, it is an orientation also for small and medium enterprises. What would be a chance, an opportunity for business in the future? And because this is an orientation, and this help also small and medium enterprises, in which ways they should go, and in which ways they can invest. This is also a very important thing about, if I'm saying here in this direction, on the technology platform activities. Artemis is a technology platform too. And I think this is a very important tool for Europe for the orientation on specific topic, on the specific business, in particular for small and medium enterprises, because they get the information from the high trends as a business for Europe or international. They cannot afford by themselves, and via such activities, they get the information and they get the orientation to establish their own business in the right framework.
So I'd like to add something to that. The comments made so far have been in the, let's say, outwards reaching direction. What is happening to the results of the project, how we're ensuring that our research work gets embedded into the real world and how it's creating business and things like this. It is also an important instrument for the program, because as we saw in the presentation just made, the industry drive was a well-appreciated feature of the Artemis program. Well, the Centres of Innovation and Excellence are also providing not only inputs to the strategic research agenda at the top level, but every year we come along with new work programs specifically identifying topics for the work. And this is generated to a large extent by the COAs as well. So it's closing the loop. And I think this is a particularly important feature and a very powerful part of this instrument we have.
Another part of this, or maybe touching quite a bit to what Alan said, is the connection to other ETPs and other technology platforms in Europe. For example, in the automation area where I'm involved with the process.eu, the end users, they are not here. They are in other platforms, and they are right now forming aspiring technology platform and aspiring PPP. And what I look forward to, and what's really ongoing, is that Centre of Innovation Excellence can make those connections. For example, process.eu is now involved in core working groups on Spiring. We're asked to be there to provide the support on automation technology. And this is a way of tying Europe together, and I think that's a very important factor to address the second question.
Definitely.
So in fact, I would like to refer back to history. I still remember 20 years ago when we were participating in the SP1, SP2, SP3 type of programs. there was always a very big concern on how the technology developed in these programs, like tools, like platforms, will move into the market, because often it was not the core business of a company to do so, and often some companies were not strong enough to take it up. I think this concept of Center of Innovation Excellence is an ideal means to bridge the gap between what is realized in a certain project and how it comes to the market. It's not mature enough often to bring it directly on the market, but it's mature enough to get used by multiple industries, by a complete ecosystem, and I think that's an ideal, I would say, platform to start growing the business in a later stage.
Thank you, Patrick. I was going to ask the floor. Do you have any questions so far? Laila.
I'm holding the comment. I'm very happy about your discussion because you are almost reading my ideas. I was discussing it with Jürgen before the session. And I think that for sure the Center of Innovation Excellence can now gear up to another way of doing things, to be a kind of way to have the startups or the spin-offs ideas to be born in this environment, in this context. But of course, to make this spin-off implemented, we need other type of partners who are more capital ventures and so on. But at least if we can have the raw ideas, the raw diamonds or the raw crystal put in place and to give it to another kind of people to make it not raw, to polish it. So this is very good, and it will help us a lot in the perspective of the new shield as we our problematics about the value of vessel that has been mentioned yesterday. You cannot take this model to the embedded system industry. We have another type of addressing it, and this is one of the solutions to bridge the gap between knowledge and market. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have one simple question. If I wanted to be an enemy of the concept of Center of Innovation Excellence, I would say that this is a fantastic instrument for the regional, in this case, national policies, and not for a pan-European policy. What's your answer to that?
Well, I don't agree with you, but maybe one of my colleagues presenters.
No, it is my opinion. I say if somebody wants to be against, they could say that. If somebody is telling you that, what's your answer?
Eric, it is a prerequisite, a boundary condition for a Center of Innovation Excellence to show that they have cross-boundary, international, transnational cooperation. And if not, they don't get the label. So the three we have the label now have proven that. Maybe we are not mentioning that enough in our communication. But basically they are working transnationally. It was a little bit like
that. Any other question? One on the floor. Sorry. One there. I got one question to you, sorry. I'll wait.
I still wonder how you are organized in Center of Excellence, in the sense that if you agree on the number of platforms and tools, then expect that a lot of support is needed. And also, if I listen to the presentations, I'm impressed of all the things you do, but it requires also a lot of effort to get organized. How are you doing that?
Yeah, at the moment, so this is a very, very valid and also a very difficult question. So at the moment, I simply can say how it is done, because we are really profiting from the fact that we are built from national clusters, which in some way or other have some resources available. We are really benefiting from the fact that there is a strong will of the community to spend in-kind contribution to this kind of work. But we are also restricted in our activities by simply the amount of money that is available and that is agreed to be spent on these activities. And if some more opportunities there could be found, we could certainly intensify or even extend our activities. As for the sustainability and the reference technology platforms, this will not be sufficient, but we are currently working on and especially also from the CETA project, there are business models which will hopefully take care of this aspect.
It is clear for national activities and interactions, it's fine, but it will be not enough to explore what our vision is there. So in this direction, I think it would be, if you have the huge joint undertaking, to have also support actions, interactions, and we are faster. We can improve and we can speed up a little bit our work. And this is also a question or a need which we had to share in the future. It was talked also yesterday. Maybe this can be also contribute to the some contents of Horizon 2020, which is outside a joint undertaking. That is also one of the possibilities. I think we talked just during the break, the program actors in this direction from the DG Connect will also maybe use such information, such work in this direction.
Just to comment a little bit on Eric's question here as well, and how we are funding this. In the case of Pro-Society Lahti, this has started as a collaboration between Finland and Sweden, supported by regional, national and regional European money, and later on also by interregional European money. And now supported and appreciated by a body at the European level. And to me this is a kind of showing the cohesion between what's going on the global European level and what's going on regional and national levels. And the Overhead project has emerged from a process like Lahti, which shows that we can gather an interest across more or less whole Europe.
Last question from
Well, just a comment that we like very much that the Commission, they historically eye for innovation, because FP7 was R&D, but Horizon 2020 is RDI, Research, Development and Innovation. So work which is closer to the market, or just organizational work, or supporting actions for standardization, for centers of innovation excellence and whatever, which are needed to bridge this gap from research to market, is going to help. So we hope in the new joint undertaking there is funds available for supporting actions which are also in the field that we are discussing right now. So the direction that we are going is okay, the amount is still to be seen.
Is that the last question? I'm ready for the last question.
Don't be so hard against
Give me a chance. Thank you very much. Just innovation will require that we are also going beyond the present limits, which is typically developing something, trying to bring that into application. And when we were setting up the Centers of Innovation Excellence, we said we even want to go beyond, we want to go into the service phase. This is something I would like to ask to the members of the panel, especially those for the Centers of Innovation Excellence. Do you see a chance that we also enter into that phase, that we are going into operation, into services and some issues like that? Because there is also a big chance to do value generation, because we are talking about an entire ecosystem. We are not talking about only R&D.
Thank you very much. Do you want to speak on that question? Who's brave enough?
Before we are talking who is starting, I will start. I said this one step further. Up to now, we have concentrated more on technology and so on, but it's a good point from your side that will be a next evolution in our thinking. And to fulfill the requirement of innovation, we have to go in this direction. Fully agree.
I believe that the current roadmap that is very soon to be rolled out from process-IT.eu regarding automation systems and process automation systems, there some of the pointed out activities and directions where we could go into the direction of becoming services in the way you are thinking. So I don't know, but it's the roadmap actually points at a few things that might be that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're going to the next point of discussion. The next point of discussion is the Artemis platform, and Patrick presented a few numbers very, very briefly on tool usage, and the metrics were related to the use of the tool by the community. And the contribution of the Artemis community to that tool platform. The conclusion that the report drew from the answers to the question were that tools are a successful living instrument in Artemis. But what does that mean? And there is a tool platform which is CISA. How will it move forward? What impact does it plan to have in the future? As a first question. And I think probably who is the best is Joseph.
Bad luck.
Okay. I think from the at the starting of CESA, it was from some colleagues a vision to create one universal RTP, but we detected very early that such an approach is not realistic in the future, and from this standpoint we said we will develop based on the application or on the application which we have created user cases in this direction to show how RTP should be developed, what are the boundary conditions, what is the interoperability specification and so on, and how such things can be created, because each organization, depending on the sector or depending on the application, it should be handleable within the future. So if you have a really huge software RTP, it's not handleable for the normal use of this one. Therefore, as example, only as example, we as AVL, we are providing test systems, we are providing software systems. Based on the CESA activities, we are creating within our organization links to the huge Dassault PDM system, other PDM system, a small RTP with software which is used by our clients. And this was created also as an example, as an outcome of this RTP, the baseline we developed here, and then we transfer it to other one. So from this standpoint, but return to your question, sorry about, we are thinking this RTP, the baseline, is now transferred to other projects. We had at the beginning also not created sustainability things. We modified during the project our contracts, consortium contracts in this direction, that we had to offer, and we had sustainability which is not binded on one or other partners. And this is also a need for the future, that as Artemis, the consortium agreement should be to have a part which is open to other partners which we can transfer to other. And so our RTP is now transferred to the ECOSI, and ECOSI will continue and keep it on life to transfer to other projects on one side, and also maybe to standardization organization and so on and so on.
Just perhaps before going further into the first question, we should focus on the second one. And and some of you can give us a brief definition of what a tool platform is, or what a tool platform means. Brief definition, explanation.
The concept of the tool platform came up when the Artemis work program was actually being derived from the SRA. It's a very simplistic approach in actual fact, which sounds quite easy to do. We know that in Europe we don't have a very strong, let's say, monolithic tool provider as part of our industry, which is a weakness. It's an exposure we have to rely on non-European sources for these tools. But we also have the observation that we have a large number, generally SMEs, who do make very good functional tools for specific parts of a design process. And the basic simple idea at the beginning was, well look, can we build some structure, some, let's say, standards, some interfaces, some library format, which everybody can work with, so that these very good tools can actually be put together to make some useful, workable tool chain for addressing this or that part of the design flow. And as I said, it's a very simplistic sounding idea, and it's expressed as such in the annual work program. There's a piece of text in there which I actually wrote on the basis of the discussions. But when we see the presentation made earlier by Caesar, the complexity of these tools and the interaction which is necessary is in fact monstrous. I mean, that was a fantastic slide.
It is impressive.
And this actually shows that this concept of a tool platform, making all of this stuff work together, is really just a starting point. We need very structured, very well-organized, and very clever people working together to address that complexity. And to be quite frank, I think this is one step towards defeating fragmentation. This is another thing which is in our work program. We have thousands of research projects working on thousands of tools. We see them every day. But are they usable in real life? Well, if we can put them into the form of a tool platform, maybe we have a better chance of surviving.
And how's that work going?
And I may I continue? And I think at the CESA tool platform, we started and we created a community in this direction. And that is the advantage of this work, a community who understand how to build. And now other projects are building on this baseline and improving. So with one project you cannot solve everything. But it's a good base in this direction. And I think we had also now in a book which will be published in May. I think May is the published day, yes. We had some delays, but it is now in May. And here, if you have a look to this one, and also to say information via Ecosy, you will get information how to build your own activities in this direction with the specification. If you follow with the specification, it should be that your product, your tool links, can be transferred the information to bigger PDM system or something else. And that is the vision. That is also the chance for the smaller medium enterprise. If you are following this one, they have a chance to become business in all the sectors. And that would be the great idea of Europe in this direction.
Thank you. Yes, any questions from the audience? You have a question regarding tools and platforms? Heinrich, again.
Typically, the question on tools, tool platforms sounds like an issue of the large industry. Question to the audience, is there a chance also for universities, for research organizations to benefit from building up these tool platforms?
Who was the answer to that one?
Yes.
Yes, simply.
How?
I think maybe just the way I see it is that it is a multiple-step approach. And I think original new ideas always comes from universities or research institutes. And these are typically often a type of point tools, tools fitting in a larger environment and being tested by one or two industrial partners. The next step is that it is integrated into a larger environment, and as was already stated by the previous speakers, it's a complex monster. It's not just plugging some tools together and everything works. And therefore I only see the tool platform being successful, if it is taken up by one of the centers of innovation excellence, who takes up the accountability to really try to get more users, to really build up experience with this. And based on this, I think the next step is that there can also be some business related to these tools. But it's not just a simple matter of plugging things together and in 2 years you have a commercial product. No, it's a cycle of 10 years before you really use this type of complex tools towards getting it into a commercial market success.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Can I just add a small anecdote to that? The original idea of the tool platform was expressed by somebody from industry within the Artemis community who was building the SRA and things like this. But I particularly quickly caught on to this idea because I can very clearly remember the plaintive cry of somebody from a university who was a specialist in developing these tools. They were really experts in producing specific kinds of algorithms, toolware, to address a very special part of the tool chain. And his complaint was, I cannot valorize this. It takes 2 years to get this thing into the market, and I cannot fund that. So how do we do this? Well, the tool platform is giving a direct vehicle for this kind of activity to go to a market, to get themselves integrated into a larger structure, so that the research work which they have done, which is extremely good, can actually make it to valorization. Without such a structure, I think that would still be physically impossible.
Can we directly, let the audience to participate as well, please. Skipping the first row. You all have questions. Please.
I'm the chairman of the education training working group of Artemis. From this point of view, it would be very interesting to have prototype tools with some restricted licenses for universities and training purposes. And it needs not to have the maturity of, as you said, for business. Yeah? But it would be an early opportunity. That was one of the goals in the declarations of the D&D working group. And in some projects where we are active, we try to find some way to get preliminary tools for these guidelines attached for university use. So that would be helpful even before it's major for the market.
Who wants to answer to that? Make a comment?
It was a comment.
It's a comment.
Make it more precise.
I think we agree.
Is it possible to get this, let's say, from ICOC or for certain parts of the tool platform? So.
Yes, of course.
I think there's no question, and also from the CESA project we had a lot of universities integrated, and they are transferring this also to their daily work in the training courses and so on. So, but you offered it, and maybe via accuracy you will get this information.
I mean outside the, let's say.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah. Giovanni?
Thank you, Len. I'm not really an expert here, but I would like to see then the future of the tool platform. I mean, we are moving from the first joint undertaking to the second. And I think that if it's believable what you have been telling us, that we need a strategy for the next 7 years in terms of who's going to own the rights on this, who's going to fund it. I mean, if it's an enabling capability which is available to most, it shouldn't be funded under the 50% rule. It's not a competitive tool for one company or another company. It's something available for everybody, improving their capability to innovate, reduce price, reduce time, and so on. So I think we need a strategy on that to be inserted in the future SRA for undertaking number 2.
I would like to make a comment on Giovanni's statement. He's absolutely right. We need to take care that we have a diffusion strategy, that we have a strategy for sustainability. On the other hand, we also have to recognize that there is a lot of industry sitting around and participating, contributing, and we should not make competition to them, destroying their business. On the contrary, we would like to enable them to contribute to the large community. So we are talking about interoperability standards, so that companies are bringing tools to the market that are complying to the requirements that this tool set is demanding, and then this is perhaps getting a label, CISA tool compliant or something like this, and companies or institutions may use that. And answer also to the question before, most of the universities, they just have to apply to the suppliers of tools, and most of the companies are supplying for free licenses to the universities or to the research institutes. But we have to do that together, not against each other. And in order to make it sustainable, we need perhaps a central institution that is taking care to carry forward this idea, so that it is not just a, say, 7 years effect or something like this. It has to develop perhaps towards open standard platforms or open systems library or whatever. But we have to do that together with those who are doing that on a professional basis. Especially the research community cannot continue to stick to a certain development stage and just keep things alive. They are going to new frontiers, they are continuing the development. But we need companies, institutions who are caring for the maintainability, for upgrades, for explanation, for support. And I see also a very good chance there to have additional business created out of this support activity.
Any comments on that?
Yes, can I make a comment in the form of a question? I'm a business, large or small. I've just invested a large amount of money in some toolware, okay, and I'm running my business, and then suddenly in my business field I need to do something else. I need to develop a different kind or different color of my product, whatever it is. Where do I get the tool from? Do I go back to the original supplier? Well, I might be able to, but he's going to charge me a lot of money for it. Or do I go to that SME over there who's got this wonderful tool which does exactly what I want to do, but it doesn't fit into my design flow? If you were to say that his tool could fit into my design flow without causing me extra support effort, from a business standpoint, he's my supplier. I become his customer. The tool platform is creating an effect very similar to standardization. On the one hand, one could say that standards could maybe reduce your freedom from doing things, but on the other, they're a damn good business driver. When you have standards out there which is being maintained by these things, it's a great stimulation for business, and this, at the end of the day, is what we're trying to achieve. Okay?
One last question, please.
From my understanding, the tool platform is not just tools. It is more about methodology. It is more about best practices and standards. I think this is an important point which we should discuss here, because this is what we are working in the projects and what we are developing. And I think this information, this is our open and common information, this needs to be maintained somehow with an organization, I don't know, with the Center of Innovation Excellence or whatever. Maybe you have an answer to this. The tools itself will be managed by the industry. So if I read tool platform, this might be a bit misleading, because we are rather thinking, or myself, I'm thinking about these methodologies, processes and best practices.
Yes.
Maybe you want also to add something.
Fully support. Tool is owned by one or the other, small and large enterprises. This is out of the scope at this time. But method and so on, that is the content. Yes.
Yes, and of course, an important sense also the interoperability specification or standard as it will become as the most important part.
Yeah, also, there's an English expression: it's a bad workman who blames his tools. In other words, if you read into that, it's the how you use the tool which is as important as the tool itself. So it's I fully support what you just said.
Right. And the question now is, who supports that know-how? Who maintains this know-how? This is the question.
Is that a question that can be answered by the...
We have to build a business model.
Leila has a comment.
I think we need to face this issue and try to propose some business model or models, and this cannot be done only in kind to make this work for coming to the business model. We have to be funded for doing it. It's an important thing that we have the right team with the right profiles, because it will not only be technical people, but we also need people from financing and from economic and legal, because the subjects are very complex, and also we have to have a kind of business plan, because we would like to know if we do all this, what kind of business we could be getting out of it. So this is a project in itself.
Laila, Harry wants to answer.
I understand Laila's concern, and we in fact need to take care who is sustaining this know-how, but I'm not a friend of institutionalized, subsidized entities. I'm a friend of a free market and of companies who are trying to make business out of these ingredients that we are creating. Therefore, I strongly believe that we need to initiate something, let's say on a regional basis, because we need local support for people. And perhaps, Laila, it is a good idea to start with the regional centers of excellence, or however they are called in different countries, that we have at least 1, 2, or 3, depending on the size of the country and the industry. And then this is starting to support, but becoming a kind of commercial entity which is living from the fact that it is supporting. We cannot continue for the next 20 years to depend on subsidies that we are getting from the European Commission or wherever. But the start, and that is the idea of doing new ecosystems, the start is coming out of these ideas of generating something that is providing the basis for new business. Therefore, I was also asking the question of services and so on. We need to continue beyond what we are creating.
I would follow on and say ICT Lab, the KIC ICT Lab are providing catalyzers and things like this. I'm not familiar at all with it, but I don't know whether that tool is still here or left because of these travel contingencies. But I think we should also try to see how the ICT Lab includes this kind of innovation concept could happen.
Thank you. And talking about ecosystems, we go to the last discussion item, which is the Artemis Innovation Pilot Project. We have 12 minutes to finish the session, so just be aware of the time. And one of the, from my personal point of view, key results of the metrics report was actually measuring the number of partnerships, of new partnerships, and the participation of the SMEs in the partnerships created by Artemis project and Artemis Innovation Pilots, as per the first call last year. So the numbers again, I sent you to the beautiful booklet that you can pick up later when you go for the coffee and lunch. But one question that we would like to discuss here today is the Artemis Innovation Pilot projects. How do they bring these successful results a step further and go far beyond from regular Artemis projects? And the first row in this group cannot say anything. So I leave to the speakers and to the rest of the audience. What's the experience or the hopes? Because they have just started. Jarmo.
If I can just comment based on my experience from my last year work with Arrowhead. And during the process, we have made a number of presentations in this community, and there's also gone public in different countries on that this is something moving. And apparently it has been appreciated by many people. I can today count to something like about 30 companies contacting me and say, can we be part of Arrowhead? Can we be part of that community? Can someone get in touch with you? And I'm interpreting this that the size of this type of project is so big that we are starting to push global, although from a global perspective still very small, it's still enough big to get a momentum to build up, and that many more start to believe in the direction. And that's the impact we can create. And I have, as I said, quite many already saying, can we be part of it? Can we join? We don't want to have any money. Can we join?
Yeah, now I suppose the challenge is to organize that, rationalize that, and getting them involved.
Right, that's a challenge, but I would think that's something that we need to take on, both as a project, but also as a society.
And I suppose getting support for the COI is involved in this particular pilot. Yeah, I suppose they both pilots have COIs behind. Patrick?
In my opinion, AIPPs can play a crucial role in field tests, future field tests, because if we look, in fact, to what is happening in Europe and in different types of projects, not only in the Artemis community, there are a lot of regional, small-scale type of projects. I'm referring, for example, to the transport mobility. A lot of cities set up small-scale field tests, environmental monitoring. I think also in the medical world there are a lot of small-scale field tests with one hospital and a few industries and a university. I think AIPPs can help here to really speed up the process of having initial small-scale field tests into larger pan-European field tests and bringing technology faster to the market. And AIPPs allow, in fact, different partners in Europe to come together to really bridge that gap between initial successful technological developments and bringing up successful products on the market at the end.
Is that something what you just described that is actually happening, or is it that is being planned to happen, or is it just the need that you have detected once you've started to put the pilots into practice?
I think as example, return to the CESAR project here, methods was developed which have a maturity about the TRL 3-4 number, 3 to 4. Now at the Crystal project, as example, we are trying to improve and to test this method to have a maturity of 6 to 7 maybe. And this is bringing closer to the market, as you mentioned also, to have this method closer to the market, to have a higher maturity, and then it is also in the view of our vision and business case, it can take over easier.
Thank you. Any comments from the audience? Giovanni has one. Anybody at the bottom of the audience wants to say something? We'll run with the mic to give you the floor.
Thank you, Ren. I apologize for saying two things, but I totally agree with Patrick's statement. In the next Horizon 2020 framework, there is a component which is called societal challenges. And we, as the JTI, we work inside the country, inside our borders. We need, as a strategy, to find a link with those. And the IPPs are precisely these links. We need to provide the value of these projects for the successes of those innovation and research activities in societal challenges. It's transport, it's security, it's energy, and we cannot do things separate from that. I mean, this is something that at least we need to try to do.
So you're talking about, in the line of what Patrick was saying, bringing regional pilots.
I'm not talking about getting the money also from that, that part of the horizon, but let's do things together with them, so that we are inside a wider innovation framework, which is helpful for companies, for researchers, and for the wider application of what we develop.
I think Harry wants to answer.
He was the second.
Okay.
Good. I would like also, especially from the crystal point of view. So I think these many players, these many stakeholders in different industrial domains will create a huge impact. So this is a very important point. But I think there are some hurdles to go, because we have to work on a common target, common objective. And from my point of view, this is the converge the variety of methods, of tools and development elements that we have made so far in different projects, like in CISA, in IFES, in EMPA. So we have a huge variety of methods and tools and processes, and we have to prove now that they can be applied to the industry at a high level, with a high maturity. This is at least my understanding. This is what we also have to bring into that huge partnerships that we have with these AIPP projects. And I like that statement from Laila before. The raw diamond is here, yeah, so we have a lot of core, and we have to polish it and to bring out the shining diamond, which is, I like also the crystal behind it.
Okay, I'm trying to take over a little bit the role of Eric before, as he's quiet at the moment. So, let me ask a nasty question. The AIPP, to my understanding, is intended to go to the higher TRL to bridge the gap. So it should be, by nature, be driven by industrial needs and industrial orientation. Question to the audience here: who and how is someone taking care that it is not just becoming another research program? This is just my concern when I see with new projects. It is detected everywhere that it is very interesting. So I see, let's say, to be honest, to be, let's say, even a little bit modest, 60% of participants coming from university research institutions. Is that what we want?
Good question.
I can give one very formalistic answer on that. When we, at the joint undertaking, receive project proposals, free and open competition, so they get evaluated. They are evaluated against certain criteria. And these certain criteria do contain elements of what you just stated, because it's obvious that we do not want to make a big network of universities, particularly for, let's say, purely scientific reasons. We write the word innovation in Artemis communications fairly consistently with a capital I, because this is what we want to do. Yeah? So we'll talk a bit later again about what we want to do. And because of this, these criteria are put exactly along those lines to avoid this kind of thing. Now, we are doing a publicly funded research program, as we are today, yes, and we have to live within the constraints of that. But this is as far as we can go to kickstart these things. Were it to be that all AIPPs were successful and they had an indefinite lifetime, they really all become self-sustaining in that sense, that would be a fantastic idea, and we're doing our best to try and achieve that. But it is possible that some might start and some might fail. It's what we're doing. Which brings me back to exactly what we're actually trying to do with Artemis. Yeah, why do we do public funding? We're not doing it because we want to make cool products or fashion the kind of things or go away and do some research in the backyard. We generally want, at the end of the day, to use this public funding to benefit the public. This is what it's for. This is what it's about. Which doesn't mean to say that we have to do some pretty big things. If you want to convert all of our excellent research into real innovations, which directly and indirectly will benefit the public, we have to build these big structures to make it stick. We know from our past experience that small activities like this will fizzle out. They want to have the major impact that we need to get from this public funding. This is what we're trying to go for. And the AIPPs are just a step in that direction.
One last quick question. No question?
Yeah.
May I make a comment also, because it's question research.
Quick comment, please.
Because the question, will the AIPPs just be another research project? I think the number which you stated, maybe this is the average, but in Crystal there's only a third of the members are universities and research organizations. And of course, if you want to bring research results into innovative results, you need the research institutes. So of course that is important. And another important thing that we have done in Crystal, and I think also in Arrowhead, is that we have these user stories which come out of the industry. So this is the main point where we're starting industrial user stories which has to be fulfilled. And we have also defined here a tool interconnectivity rate, which gives us then a result at the end. So how much is the tool collaboration at the beginning, and how huge is it at the end? I think we have clear figures there. We have just go for these targets.
Thank you. Any questions? That's a very quick one.
Yeah, I would take in this direction. It is guided from the industry. Industry should set targets, what they need, what they will develop, and then the university research centers can think how they can contribute to this work. And that is the normal approach in this direction.
There's a very quick comment on this as well. That looking at Arrowhead and the money distribution, what do we use money for? The absolute majority of money is going into the demonstrators and demonstrations in real use cases.
Okay, thank you very much to the questions, to all the questions, to the speakers. Now I give the floor to our President, Henrik Lundqvist.